This bombshell just dropped, I guess, yesterday while I was hosting a tournament, paddle tennis. But hey, you know what? Let's just get into the news, guys. All right, this is it. NCSoft announced that they are working on Guild Wars 3. This just randomly dropped out of the blue in classic marketing fashion of ArenaNet. We suddenly get announced that Guild Wars 3 is actually under development or could be under development. There's a lot of mixed signals here. So you know what? Let's just get right into this article right now. So the topic of Guild Wars 3 has been a common one over the last few years. When I judged our articles, the first one I found specifically about Guild Wars 3 went all the way back to 2017 as MMO players speculated about the future of the franchise between expansions. But now, Korean press have reported on NCSoft's March 28th shareholder meeting and added some real fuel to the Guild Wars 3 fire. Fuel to several fires, actually, alright? The meeting was meant to address the company's stock shortcomings and vow that the company can return to sustainable development and take its first step forward as a global game company. Now, readers will know that NCSoft reinvents itself as a global game company every few years before retracting again. So we're apparently on that cycle again. So recently, for those who don't know, NCSoft has actually released a MMO called Throne and Liberty. All right, and it did underperform. It wasn't really well received. Very, pay to win, cash grab kind of thing. And obviously, it didn't work out well for their revenues. Now, in the last NCSoft investors call, their CFO gave kind of like a non-answer. And yeah, in this call, apparently they threw out something about they actually might have Guild Wars 3 in development, right? So it really got worse from there as they got them questioned. Basically, why hasn't the board sacked the head of NC West? For those who don't know, NCSoft actually has NC West, which is basically taking care of their North American operations and basically the other market outside of Korea, right? So NC West has been running a deficit for 8 years. Now, Google Translate doesn't do a great job here, but acting chairman rejects the unspoken accusation that NCSoft West CEO, who's married to NCSoft founder, was some sort of like nepotism hire, right? Pointing out that Yoon integrated all 6 studios under one banner and which resulted in mass layoffs. For those who don't remember, like NCSoft did consolidate a lot of people into ANET as well when they were closing games like Wildstar, City of Heroes, and a lot of these kind of like just got, removed and at some point merged into ANET or NCSoft West, more or less, right? Now, basically, some of these layoffs did happen in 2019. For those who don't remember, ArenaNet at the time in 2019 was rumored to have been working on multiple projects, right? Unrelated to Guild Wars 2. And the basis of those layoffs was none of these projects went anywhere and it was a lot of waste of money and they fired everyone. Now, there was another mass firing in NC West or like cleaning of the house around last year or like a year and a half ago, more or less as well. Maybe not to the similar extent as ANET had experienced, but another removal of people, right? Now, Park basically does announce in the next follow-up question about Guild Wars 3. Originally, NC had 6 studios in the United States and the work was done to organize the 6 and integrate them into one ArenaNet. Additional costs were incurred in the process. It ultimately resulted in a competitive ArenaNet. Rather than looking at the deficit as a number, NC contributed to strengthening the competitiveness in the United States. ArenaNet has a meaningful IP called Guild Wars, and after Guild Wars 2, they're currently working on Guild Wars 3. Now, this is where it gets tricky because we don't actually know how far into Guild Wars 3 are they working. Is it literally just sort of like they just threw this out there that Guild Wars 3 is up for consideration? Is it Guild Wars 3 as a core concept is in development, as in the development of the concept is already underway? We actually have no idea where that is. Or, I've seen some people comment actually, and I've seen this on Reddit. Everyone's kind of going under fire. The Reddits are kind of panicking. Discords are here and there. Voice channels. Everyone's kind of panicking, all right? So this is where I found a lot of people saying, does this seem like more like a corporate answer in the sense where like they just kind of gave a non-answer to a question by just throwing something else out there, and then that something else just is, hey, yeah, we know what we're actually probably going to do Guild Wars 3. That is where it comes down to, right? Now, some people, right, when I say people, some people have spoken. I have here, Aura has actually spoken to someone who speaks Korean and actually translated basically what this means, more or less, right? So this is sort of where the issue is. Is Guild Wars 3 in development? Is Guild Wars 3 a concept idea? that is still under consideration, or was it just a non-answer to a very, very hostile investors call about corporate profits and all of that? So all that I could say is, though, I did not expect that any idea of news of Guild Wars 3 would be announced. In fact, I felt like it would not make sense. There's a reason why a lot of MMOs never made sequels, right? World of Warcraft, we still have the original one since 2004. We don't have an ESO 2. Final Fantasy's Online is technically the first iteration of Online. EVE Online has still been going on since 2004. A lot of MMOs don't generally do sequels. I think the last one I could remember, or the last two that I can remember that didn't do very well, RuneScape 3, was not very well received. In fact, people went back to classic RuneScape, old school RuneScape, right? And the other one is EverQuest, right? EverQuest was a great MMO and kind of was the blueprint for MMOs to begin with, right? But when they released EverQuest 2, which went head-to-head with World of Warcraft, the sequel never lived up. And in fact, EverQuest pretty much died off because of that after that. There's a reason why MMOs don't do sequels. And right, there's one other big thing is the fact that like there's this whole sunk cost fallacy where it's like, well, I have 5 years, I have 10 years of my time in this game. I've done everything I need to do in this game, and I'm still going to keep adding on to that. And why do I want to restart that from scratch? Why do I want to go back through another game, which is the same game, and do this again from scratch? Right? And even the sense of like, well, at the same time, it's like, does a studio want to basically create a new game and let go of like the years of content they've released and might be releasing for a few more years, right? Where do you justify, you know what, now is no more the time for you to actually play this game anymore because we're going to be doing something else, right? Players want to know, am I going to spend my money on this game? Is Guild Wars 2 going to remain? Am I going to actually put another 5-6 years of my time into this game? Do I even have to? If I know like another game's out in a few years, do I just like play something else, go experiment with other games and then come back? All of this throws a lot of things up in the air. So yeah, I did not expect Guild Wars 3 to even be dropped as a, you know, as a comment, to be honest. And of course, Classic Anet, it's kind of, it's like kind of a mess with their marketing, because now they have to they released a statement, I believe, and the statement was about like they are still fully focused on Guild Wars 2 and its current model in the future and everything. But it can't be good from a PR standpoint. From a PR standpoint, you got like this whole bombshell you got to deal with. People are making comments, the Reddits, the MMO genre journalists, everyone is having a conversation, an opinion about this. And you got this game that's like, these devs are like, yeah, but we still have Guild Wars 2. We're not moving on yet. So it kind of creates a bit of a mess. And this is the worst time to have this bombshell drop, given the fact that we literally are on the cusp of the next expansion and the new model that they've created for the expansions, which is like a yearly model of expansions that gets updated or released in segments, right? So this is the worst time because we're literally about 2 months from probably, or not even 2 months, like a month and a half from the next expansion probably being announced. So not very good, to be honest. Not very good. It's not looking very good. But Guild Wars 3, you know what? I believe, you know what? Maybe that reason why they were hiring devs, the reason why they had, you know, Unreal Engine devs, they originally were talking about it's for an existing IP, and a lot of people thought that Anet was hiring devs that have expertise in Unreal Engine because it's going to be for another project outside of Guild Wars 3. A lot of other people said, no, it's probably for Guild Wars 3. And hey, here we go. Maybe Guild Wars 3 is that game that they are trying to develop for an Unreal Engine. And honestly, that's not a bad idea. You know, Guild Wars 2 is still a very niche game in its own. It has its own audience, its own community. Regardless of what some of us, you could say veterans or any person who's very specific on the game itself. The game is actually very good. It's found its niche. It has a casual audience that enjoys the way that it's presented because it has a niche that no other MMO offers. It's got the horizontal progression done in a way that keeps people wanting to come back every few months or years and catch up on everything, right? It has the fact that, yeah, they have a free to play model, right? You don't have to buy the game and sub to it all the time, right? It's just you buy it once and it's yours, right? And you also can play it for free before making that informed decision of purchasing the game. So it already has its niche and it does very well. Would Guild Wars 3 interrupt that? It would really depend on what Guild Wars 3 does, because you know, you have a very good gameplay mechanic of Guild Wars 2, right? The gameplay system of Guild Wars 2 is very good. The combat's very nice. It's honestly very enjoyable. The story, hey, for some people it's not. The open world has been a very good niche for them. Everything about it is fun, right? Everything about it is nice. A lot of people love the gem store stuff. So majority of the audience does enjoy Guild Wars 2. Guild Wars 3 is a new game entirely, right? And that is how far do you have to restart in Guild Wars 3? And you have to consider the fact that it's a new game. Honestly speaking, you should not be able to carry over anything from Guild Wars 2 to Guild Wars 3. This should not be a thing of like, I have all these legendaries, I would like at least half of them to be in my Guild Wars 3 account. This isn't your ancestor from Guild Wars 1 is going to pass down to you all these items in Guild Wars 2. And now from Guild Wars 2, you're going to become an ancestor and pass it on to your Guild Wars 3 character. Ain't none of that role playing is going to happen, okay? Those items are going to get lost in time of Tyria, okay? Guild Wars 3 should be a full rebrand. I think it should be a full game on its own. That means nothing should get carried over, right? As long as it's maybe just something similar to like a Hall of Monuments like Guild Wars 1, where if you do these achievements in Guild Wars 1, you'll basically get like maybe a title in Guild Wars 2. You might get some heritage skins that you can only get if you played Guild Wars 1 or completed stuff for Guild Wars 1. I think that's fine for Guild Wars 3 if Guild Wars 2 implemented the same model to 3. Because what do you want with a new MMO, right? The whole point of a new MMO isn't because, oh, it's for like the existing audience that you have. It's supposed to also attract people who've never played or set foot in Guild Wars 2 because of like the catch-up thing, right? That's been one of the disadvantages of MMOs that go too long, is that do I want to play an MMO that has already been out for 10 years and I have to catch up to everything? Most people, no. Most people would not want that, right? Most people would be like, no, you know what? It's not an MMO for me. No matter how much I play, I'll never catch up to everything. And regardless if someone tells you you don't have to do any of that or not, people still put that in their mind, right? So for a new game like Guild Wars 3, it has to be fresh start. Everybody should start today. Everybody should be able to log in. Whether you're a Guild Wars 2 player or whether you're a new player, you should be able to all have a similar, even play style, right? Like you're playing from the start. Everyone's fresh. Everything is back to zero and then you play. That's what a new MMO should do. It should give you a whole new thing, right? And that shouldn't negate your experience in Guild Wars 2. I don't think if you've played 20,000 hours or 30,000 or however many hours you've played in a game, and now all of a sudden the studio wants to release a new game, you should be like, that's a waste of all my time. You enjoyed your time, right? Like, you've enjoyed this. Now this is a new thing entirely. So, you know, I'm very much in the firm belief that if Guild Wars 3 comes out, you have to sort of play it a little bit from scratch. Honestly, no, I don't think so, chat. I don't think... What would you do? Like, you would have players who basically got legendaries in Guild Wars 2 and then migrate those big items into Guild Wars 3. That's like basically, haha, I played Guild Wars 2, so I'm ahead of you because I have all these weapons that you don't have because you didn't play Guild Wars 2. You know how much that would rub off new players the wrong way? That like, you basically was like, oh, I have to have played Guild Wars 2 to even just basically have an even stance with players in Guild Wars 3. No, that I don't think that makes sense. You basically now alienate new potential customers, right? With a business model, you don't want to alienate new potential. You, of course, don't want to piss off existing customers, but you have to find a balance. So, you know, I don't think like having the weapons or the stats or like powerful items carry over is a good thing. I think skins is fine. Like skins, having like some titles, right? Like some legacy items that can carry over in the sense where it doesn't give you any competitive advantage. It's like sort of like, hey, this is a nice acknowledgement to the legacy that you did in this game, and you're carrying it over to this game, right? So like Hall of Monuments in Guild Wars 1 to Guild Wars 2, something similar like that. Maybe a bit better, because Hall of Monuments of Guild Wars 1 to Guild Wars 2 was a little bit disappointing for some people, I remember, but something that just allows you that as a Guild Wars player gets acknowledged that you did this in this other game, and then it goes over Guild Wars 3, right? So I think from that's fine. That's a good perspective, right? Now, honestly speaking, right, this is a little far ahead of ourselves because we don't even know if this was, again, either of these topics. ANET have obviously released a stance. They've said that they're keen to work on Guild Wars 2 and they'll continue to be working on Guild Wars 2, right? Like sort of like a PR sort of, you know, damage control situation announcement. I think also the fact that Guild Wars 3, let's be honest, guys, if it's in development, it's not out for at least 5 years. So we're 2024 now, right? Guild Wars 3 at minimum wouldn't release until like 2029 or 2030. Let's be honest here. The game won't release in less than 5 years. It's gonna have to be minimum 5 years before we get anything, right? So It would be nice if, on April Fool's, they announced an announcement like, by the way, this is not an April Fool's joke. We actually have a beta ready for you tomorrow. So that would be oh wow. Yeah, funny enough, this announcement is coming very close to April Fool's. So I don't know if that maybe NCSoft just threw this out as like a, haha, we got you in the investors call, or, so. But yeah, I mean, if anything, if Guild Wars 3 was in development, let's be honest, it's not for another 5 years, guys. It's not for another 5 years. There's still quite a long time before then. I think Guild Wars 2 in the next 5 years will still have at least another 2 or 3 expansions if they're really working on this model, right? Unless they decide, 1 or 2 years before Guild Wars 3 releases that maybe they basically have a break on the expansions. They kind of like do like a wrap-up expansion or something. But that's where we are, right? In fact, I would say that this might be the chance for the first time. I don't think it's ever been done in MMO where we have an expansion that bridges to the next expansion, right? Guild Wars 1 sort of did this in Eye of the North. It was sort of like a bridge to like the Guild Wars 2 Beyond, which was supposed to be like a Guild Wars 1.5 kind of thing, which then eventually just became Guild Wars 2. We might have something similar to that in Guild Wars 2, like a 2.5 bridge to Guild Wars 3, right? And honestly, I saw a lot of people saying like, what if this is just an update for ANET to like sort of get the game into a Guild Wars 2.5 and not really a 3. It's just an upgrade of the engine and everything. I feel like that in itself is a lot of resources, that if you're gonna put all those resources to re-upgrade this engine and redo all of these things and make everything work together, you might as well just create the new game from scratch. Because I'd say that's probably easier than just re-upgrading an engine from an existing game that is very difficult, to go through all those years of content. So yeah, that's honestly what we have. This is literally what we have right now. So NCSoft shareholder meeting accidentally reveals ANET is working on Guild Wars 3. Is it an accident or is it not an accident? You tell me in the comments. What do you think about Guild Wars 3? Should it happen? Should it not happen? Is this actually working? Do you actually think this is something that was just announced as a corporate sales pitch just to please investors in the moment? Is this something that's being developed in core concept at least? Or is this just a big April Fool's joke? Let me know in the comment sections. Hey, if you watch the streams, come check us out on twitch.tv/guildmm. I'm also live on YouTube. So, hey, if you enjoyed this kind of conversation, discussion, tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. Join us on Twitch. We're probably going to be talking about this forever at this point now because, hey, cat's out of the bag, right? They've thrown something at us and we have no idea whether this is real to believe or not. Maybe in Guild Wars 3, I'll even become an ArenaNet partner. Who knows? There could be a lot of things that happen. But hey, catch us on twitch.tv/guildmm. Comment down below. Follow me on the internet. I'm on the internet and stuff. I'm on all my social media. We'll catch you guys on streams. And you can join in the discussions live as they're happening right now on Twitch. So until then, gamers, take care. Let me know in the comments. And we'll see you when we see you.